The lights are still off here again. I don't know what keeps going on. Haven't we put the money in the meter, anyone?
Anyone there? Might be the question.
Anyhow, it's Millwall. No one likes us talking. Broadcasting on their monthly podcast to one and all. Hello, Stan. How's it going, mate?
I'm doing okay, thanks, Eamonn. I'm doing okay.
That's good. And George, how about you?
Not too bad. Not too bad, Eamonn.
Yeah,
Not too bad.
Enjoyed the journey?
It's quite nice, yeah.
Good.
Pleasant,
That's all right. And Ted, you're here as usual, looking as
yep.
bright and sprightly.
Much better for after the weekend, I've got to be honest, but well, I'm sure we're going to get into that.
That was nice.
Eamonn.
That was nice. You having a quote in the old Birmingham Mail and Express.
Well, I hope my quotes don't go much further than that, I've got to be honest, because I might get myself into trouble somewhere along the line.
You got the fact that we won right, but never the score. Never mind. That's okay, and we can go from there. Okay, guys. Well, what do you reckon? As I've worked it out, 6 points from 9 in our last 3, and a FA Cup quarter-final defeat on penalties. What can we say about that return, chaps?
Well, it's very good. It's very good. I mean, on Saturday, I was well pleased. I mean, it was a game that we couldn't afford to mess about with, right? But the midfield was full of running. I thought, what's his name, had a good game at the back, Meredith. It's the first time he's played as well as that in a long time for whatever reason. And I thought they all play well. I mean, to me, there was 2 standout players in that team. One who would have been my man in the match would have been Ben Thompson. And then the second guy who I thought was absolutely outstanding at the back was Alex Pearce. And the more I've seen of him, and I know he's out of contracts at Derby come the end of the season, hopefully, and it's all hopes, but hopefully he might well, if we put in an offer, and I'd be surprised if we don't, to be honest, but if we do, I would hope he'd see his way to sign for us, because I think he's a good player.
Yeah, I had a conversation with old Dean Wilson, who does our sponsoring, as you know, and we put that out on the air over the weekend, and Dean went for Ben Thompson as the man of the match, but we had the conversation and I highlighted the reason why Neil has given Pearce the armband, because he does manage to control from that sort of position and do it quite effectively. He was very calm when he brought balls down and pushed them back out as well.
Well, he's an organiser, Eamonn. If you see him, I had the pleasure of seeing him in a under-23 game, and he was non-stop talking, and Dave Martin to a certain extent, but Alex Pearce is a born captain. He's a leader. You can see that. He will control what other people do. He will bring other people in closer to him, tell them to get out, and he's a talker. And I've always believed that you need that in a centre half and also in a captain. And he fits the bill 100% to me for both of them. Right, you know. Yeah. But I mean, I having gone to Leeds and see the way we played at Leeds, and let's face it, we was unlucky not to get anything there. We've been developing this style of play with Gregory up front. And that Friday before Leeds, when we was recording up in the old Love Sport studio there, we watched a little bit of West Brom, and I thought they was very vulnerable at the back. They looked a side that should be a lot better than they really are with the players that they've got. There seemed to be, for want of a better way of putting it, a bit of a lack of leadership within them, certainly in the back floor. I mean, the guy that got himself sent off, I mean, Christ almighty, that was absolutely ridiculous, wasn't it? If our centre-half had done that, we would have gone ballistic with him, because he actually got himself sent off. But I was confident that if we played like we did at Leeds, with this new style that we've developed from somewhere, whether it's come out, you've got to give Neil Harris credit. I'm sure they've been doing it on the training ground and that. And Ben Thompson's come back and been nothing short of a revelation in this position. You know, I was confident that we could do something against West Brom, because it could have happened at Leeds. It didn't quite. It did happen at Birmingham. We got the result there. And even against Brighton, we give Brighton a right good game, even though Ben Thompson wasn't involved. So the form's been coming along. And now I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later now. The next one with QPR, which all of a sudden has become a massive game because they are within touching distance.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to turn up and want to get something out of the game. But hopefully we can continue to play with the sort of confidence that we seem to have got.
Well, if anybody was listening to our Friday night show, they will know that I went for a 2-2 to the disappointment that everybody was in the studio. But and I was very glad to be proved wrong on this occasion. But I wasn't disappointed with the way West Brom played. I was only too happy. But I thought our standard of football was excellent, and I was very surprised. I had seen us at Leeds. I saw the game. I thought we played very well. We were out the box sharp and played good attacking football. The system you're talking about, Ted, you know me, I'm a 4-4-2 man. I never deny that all day long. The only area that I'm worried about with this system is that Gregory is up there on his own. Now, I know Thompson's proved me wrong on quite a few occasions already, but he's working very hard, the boy Thompson, and I just wish we had... one forward on up the front on his own is always an hard task.
Well, you've got the four, George. You've got Ben Thompson, Jeb Wallace and Ben Marshall. They will do what they can to get up alongside of
and as you say, Wallace and Marshall are both fast, so they're going to counteract that.
Well, hold on a minute. Marshall's fast. They keep telling me they keep seeing him in a certain burger establishment, I've heard.
I don't know about that, but no, there's certain... And going back to Pearce, well, I'm a big Hutchinson fan, as everybody knows. I love Hutchinson, but I have to say that this boy Pearce seems to be very, very good to me. I'm very impressed, and as I say, I am an Hutchinson fan. So,
well, as I say, George, whether it's fortunate or not, we find ourselves in a predicament where we're battling against relegation, and that's when you need the people in the trenches to come out and fight for you and whatever. I think Alex Pearce, I'm a Sean Hutchinson fan, but Alex Pearce generates a bit more out of other people. Hutch is a bit of a captain along the lines of Robbo, that his performance is what leads him on, if you know what I mean. And unfortunately, he's not hit the heights this year. Whereas Pearce has come in as the other type of captain who generally chats and talks to people. And I've watched Pearce since he's come in the side. There's nothing that you would say that he does that's outstanding, but what he does do is all the dirty little bits well. He doesn't muck about. If the ball's in the box to be cleared, he clears it. He doesn't do anything else, And I think in our situation, that is exactly what we need. We need to be able to clear our lines, make sure we're not giving anything away. The only games that we have given a little bit away was against Leeds. But the big thing is that there's not a lot of difference between the bottom and the top in this division. And in every game, and I've said it before, sometimes your luck is what changes games. We had a little bit of luck against West Brom where the guy missed the penalty, and also, our first goal where the keeper, you would say, I could imagine what we'd have all said if that was Jordan Archer, but, take that out of it. There's little bits of luck when Ben Thompson's run on a byline, and them little bits of fortune that go your way can make a massive difference at the end of it. We didn't have it at Leeds. We didn't, even though we did save a penalty in it. There was the clearance from Romeo that hit the back of the Leeds guy. Could quite easily have flown off for a goal kick, but it don't. It stops, and all of a sudden the game changes. We've got to keep up this level without a doubt. But we are more than overdue our fair share of little bits of luck.
But I think, the only thing I'm hoping for, and I don't disagree with anything you say, Ted, the only thing I'm hoping for is when we turn up at the ground tomorrow, I'm not sitting in the stands and all of a sudden I hear, team alterations, and he starts messing around with the team. I mean, unless they're injured, right, what he's got to do now, because I think he's got the right formula, and he's got to keep playing the same team. I don't want to sit here.
I can't see him.
I don't want to suddenly turn up and they say to him, or we turn up and there's a change in. You've now got Williams in and whatever, and then somebody says, "Well, why is that in?" Tunnicliffe looked a bit tired. I'm not having that, cobblers. Right? The same. Unless they got injuries. It's got to be the same.
Never
team.
Change your winning sides. Then.
Well, that's right. That's right. But what bothers me?
I actually think though. my little, I don't know if we can talk about it a bit later, but QPR tomorrow night, my worry is QPR are desperate for points. They might come. They've had a bit of an hiding at Norwich. They might come down there and start parking the buses, as we all call it. And our system that we play there might not cause them as many problems it would be if they was coming out.
Yeah.
You know, and it may well come down to perhaps getting the likes of either Morrison or Elliott out onto the pitch in the last minutes to get ourselves a goal.
I'm not. You're missing what
No,
I'm
not saying about the beginning.
I'm talking about the start. I'm not talking about you might make substitutions.
Hold your thoughts for the end of the podcast, because we're going to talk about QPR in quite some depth. Let's just think about a guy that caught my eye on Saturday and has caught my eye a few times.
Well, you got a glass eye or something you've been thrown out?
No, I've got the B8 glass eye.
One of them three is a glass eye.
Well,
Yeah. But never mind. Back to Orion, the Lion Tunnicliffe, who you may well remember we had on the show a little way back when. He, for me, is just doing ever so well. And what's your thoughts on that?
Again, you see, and I thought he had a good game. I think he's a good player. I'm also conscious. I mean, I sat and read last week an interview he gave in the paper. And he's clearly indicating there that and he was saying quite clearly that he thought he should have been playing a lot more than he has been. And I have to agree with him. And he's out of contract come the end of the season. And all I'm hoping for is if we stay up, right, because I think if we go down, I think he'll go. Because he said he wants to play in the check. But if he stays up, we should sign him.
My opinion of Ryan Tunnicliffe is it's all right for him to turn around and say, I should be playing. But when he did come in the side, when we played 4-4-2, I don't think he's as effective in a 4-4-2 as he is in this system. No. And not only that, what I would like to see from Ryan Tunnicliffe is a little bit more of what he done on Saturday. Got himself into a position our shot. The boy's been playing well in the last few games, but before that, when I was watching Ryan Tunnicliffe, I was looking at a man that I thought had bags of talent, but wasn't producing as much as he should do. Now that might be a bit harsh for me, but the guy is talented. He's obviously been talented because he came from Manchester United originally, and you don't get anywhere at Man United unless you've got some ability. But with the ability that he's got, Ryan Tunnicliffe, I'd like to see him forcing himself on a game a bit more. You know what I mean? Because sometimes Ryan Tunnicliffe just seems to drift through the game and doesn't have too much effect on it. He did on Saturday, and I'd just like to see Ryan Tunnicliffe do it a little bit more. I do like you, Ryan, by the way.
Yeah, sorry, George, but it might well be the reason we're seeing Ryan Tunnicliffe play the way he is, because that system suits him.
Well,
true.
I think you make a very good point, Ted, because when he's done it in the 4-4-2, he's not been as effective as he is in this 5 sort of midfield that we play. I've seen him play on the away games in this system, and he's done excellent. And then I bring you back to the point that Stan made. Then he wasn't in the home game. And that didn't really make a lot of sense to me, because you're saying how well he played, in this system. He's been doing that these last weeks or so. And I don't know where he didn't keep his place a little bit earlier on than that.
Look, the bottom line is they've found the system now. It works. Even Ryan Leonard, all the 3 midfield guys have been excellent for the last few games. So Sean Williams, as good as he is, he's got to sit on the bench until one of them starts not performing. So.
And those last words from Ted sort of bring us to a position where we'll be introducing one of our guests after we have a little break, and that is Richard Sadlier.
Aisling here, and welcome to No One Likes Us Talking, podcast question number 12, sponsored by WePrintAnyGift.com. Before asking the question, we must congratulate Ben Webster from Dartford on winning our last competition with the answer David Ford and Jordan Archer. As a prize, Ben received a 25-year memento keyring. The question was very well responded to, so thanks for entering and better luck this time. We continue to celebrate the 25 years at the Den, Zampa Road, with the following question. In the last 25 years, how many seasons have we spent in the second tier, including this season? I'll repeat that. In the last 25 years, how many seasons have we spent in the second tier, including this season? Please send your answer to studio at NOLUTTalking.com. That is all in lowercase, and No One Likes Us Talking is all one word, and talking is without a G. Write podcast question in the subject of your email. The competition will close next Monday. The winner will be announced on our social media links and will be given a shout out on the next No One Likes Us Talking show. Finally, thanks again to our sponsor, WePrintAnyGift.com.
No One Likes Us Talking is also sponsored by Gary at Tower Design and Print Limited, Dean Wilson, Independent Funeral Directors at Elton, Bromley and Locks Bottom, Reliance South East Cleaning Services covering London, Kent and Sussex, Bexley Steel, Power Industrial Estate, Slade Green Road, Erith and North East Millwall. You can find our sponsors' details online or at our website at NoOneLikesUsTalking.com. That is a talking without a G. That's NoOneLikesUsTalking.com. He was tipped as the next best thing to come through the ranks since Teddy Sheringham. He gained a full international cap with the Republic of Ireland before his career with Millwall and the Irish came to an abrupt end with a hip injury. On leaving the game, he became CEO at St Patrick's Athletic in Dublin, and now he is a football pundit on the Irish TV and within the Irish press, as well as practising psychotherapist. Welcome back, Richard Sadlier.
Lads, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
That was some introduction, that, Richard, wasn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, actually, when I finished, I wouldn't have thought that there'd be anything to add to my CV. I just had to be this big black hole that I'd just be somebody who used to play football and I would have to accept that. So it's nice, actually, to look back at it so many years later and actually, yeah, there is other things you can do when you finish playing football.
That's a big thing with me, Richie, because there's such obviously a buzz about playing football, I'm sure. Like, you get yourself out there week in, week out with the boys training and this, that, and then all of a sudden, you know, I'm not sure, perhaps they do it a bit more in these days, but in days gone by, people never planned for after football. So did you do that? Did you plan something for after football?
Do you know what? Back then, there was very little discussion of what you would do after your career. I remember even being in the dressing room, and even if we had a game, if it was a Tuesday, say, and we had a game the following night on a Wednesday, and we had a game, obviously, as you do, the following Saturday. If anyone caught us talking about the Saturday, we'd be given out this. And now listen, forget about the future. It's about today. It's about training today and tomorrow's match. So there was never really any room to talk long term because somebody somewhere within the club would accuse you of lacking focus on what you have to do next. Do you know this phrase, like, we take one game at a time? That was basically how we were told to live our life. That's not just some cliche that players say in matches. So I didn't really think too much about my post-football life. I mean, when I first got the injury, I was 23. So most 23-year-olds back then, certainly, we weren't in conversation about what our lives would look like when we were 35. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't. You go, well, that's miles away. That's so far into the future. There's nothing I can do now to influence that. I need to focus on what I'm doing now. So that's kind of what I did. When I first got the injury, actually, myself and one of the other lads, Joe Dolan, we signed up to a PFA a degree course in sports science. So we would 2 days a week after training. Our training at the time just consisted of going in for treatment in the physio room, but we would go 2 days a week over to Roehampton for lecture. So we started to nudge ourselves, like kind of 1 foot in the life outside football by doing that degree, which I was really glad I did, because when I got to finish, that was some bit of structure that I had in my week.
Now, Richard, I was speaking with, do you remember Tony Sowerby, Head of Education?
Oh, I do. I remember Tony well, yeah.
Yeah, Head
really
of Education.
Nice fella. Great fella.
He always said to me, now, I used to tell them all that they need to look forward beyond their football career. Did he actually used to say that to you?
Oh, well, he would have done. But again, like, I remember Sean Dyche, when he was one of the senior players in our dressing room. He always did it. He would always, we'd be on the coach journey, and Dyche often would sit in the seat opposite me. And he would often go on about the importance of long-term financial planning and getting a PEPs or ISAs or all these phrases. I didn't know what any of them meant. But when you're 20, 21, 22, or certainly when I was that age, you just don't listen. Like you think, listen to this old man here banging on about, life is going to be different when you're 35 and when you're 40. But when you're 21, those ages seem like in a distant universe. So there are people who will give you the right advice, and there are people who will point you in the right direction. But when you're in the world,
happened to him, Richard? Sean Dyche. Whatever happened to him?
I don't know. He never knew much about the game. I don't know what he's doing now.
Richard, did you not think of going in, doing your badges and becoming a coach?
I actually did. When I finished, I think because of my playing career, I think I was allowed to go in at UEFA B level, I think, with the FA. But I think there was a C level course just starting up in the next few months. So I thought I'll do that just to see what it's like. And 3 or 4 days into it, I just realised, this isn't for me. A lot of people at the time, and I've said this loads of times since, said to me, well, if you can't play, then coach, because it's the next best thing. Because it'll keep you involved in a football club, you'll be at the training ground, you'll be in the dressing room, you'll be on a team bus. The fixture list will still be like your fixture list. You'll just be in a coaching role. But I remember thinking, I'd no real desire or ambition to coach. Getting other players to be better or manage a team or coach a team. My love with football was playing, was being a striker, was being part of a team, not managing or coaching a team. So I understand why loads of footballers go into coaching, because they like Dyche is the obvious example. I remember speaking to him years ago, and even when he was playing, he spoke about his desire to be a coach. He spoke with enthusiasm about one day working with younger players and trying to mould them into having the right attitude and learning about the game and being better players. And Dyche was always about, being better people as well. So he was someone who always saw that for himself, whereas I never really had that interest.
Do you think that was because you were so young?
I don't know. To be honest, because that my opinion hasn't changed. I didn't get to my mid-late 20s or my earlier mid-30s, and all of a sudden then developed an interest in. I've kind of moved to other areas. So I know, obviously, with my background and my love of the game and the various different contacts I have, if I was to do a coaching course, there might be opportunities or openings there for me.
Yeah, Rich,
I'm drawn to.
I remember, I can't think who it was now, but you mentioned Sean Dyche, but I remember somebody saying that, and he was obviously a player of Millwall. He said when he used to sit down and talk about and Sean Dyche listen, he said you could always tell by the way he talks about the game that at some point this guy was going to go on and be a manager. You just knew it. Okay, so and he's done really well. But listening to, in your particular case, I don't know whether you're familiar, but there was a book written called Retired about the ups and downs of former professional footballers, that their careers were cut short for all sorts of reasons, and then how they come to sort of struggle afterwards for one reason or another. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you've not seen the book, if you can. I think Niall Quinn made a comment on it about. I think he said something about it was a book that should have been written a long time ago. And if you haven't seen it, I'd suggest you get hold of a copy because it's an eye opener, mate.
Yeah, because I think one of the things when you're a footballer, virtually 100% of the conversations you have are going to be about football. Because if you met some of the first team players tomorrow at Millwall, I bet you're not going to ask them their opinion about Brexit. Or you're not going to ask them, listen, lads, where are we going with climate change? What are your views? You're going to be asking them, how are we going to do against QPR? Are certain lads fit? What's the morale in the dressing room? You're going to look at them and talk to them, and you're only going to see them as one thing, as professional footballers. And the vast majority of people in your life, when you're a footballer, look at you and talk to you in only those terms. So it can be difficult. Yeah, you hear the advice about, prepare for life after it, but when you genuinely see yourself as, I'm a footballer, it's what I do, it's sometimes hard then to spend a lot of time, going to college and learning to be something entirely different, or thinking about starting an apprenticeship in another area, because not everyone has the wherewithal to do that.
No, that's it's a challenge. Certainly, my own development has been exactly the same. But to reflect back on the team and the players that were around you at the time you did progress through the ranks at the Den, have you got any stories of good interest that the fans could listen to?
About the players back then?
Yeah.
You know, I absolutely loved. There was about a kind of a 12-month spell where just the end of the last few months of the promotion season, we got promoted to what's now the Championship, and right up to about March or April of that season, like on the pitch, off the pitch, and honestly, it was the happiest period I think I've ever had. Being in that dressing room, standing in the tunnel, going out, being in the dressing room afterwards when we come back in, even standing out in the pitch and just with those players. It was something that we created, and it took years to create. It wasn't an overnight thing. Loads of us had been at the club for years at that stage. A lot of us had come through the academy. Some senior lads had been bought from elsewhere. Some younger lads had come in from elsewhere. Robbie Ryan came in. Dave Livermore came in. Like, they were still young when they came to the club. But we somehow managed to create this morale or this environment where it was, we worked so hard, it was so much fun, it was so enjoyable, and everyone really just got on, and we respected each other, and we took no shit from each other, and it was just brilliant. And Ray Harford was one of the coaches who was phenomenal. Mark McGee's approach was brilliant. Steve Gritt was there as well, and just the three of them, the way they each brought something different, and we were winning, and everyone was in good form. Fans were behind us, and like, it was amazing. It was because when I first joined the club, it was '96, and the only reference really the reference point at the time was the team that had got to the first division in the late '80s. So with Sheringham and Cascarino and all those, and there'd been nothing really since. And after a while, you just get fed up of hearing those stories. You just go, well, it was before our time. I don't know any of the players. None of them are still here. And then after a while, we said, Jesus, we're starting to create our own little memories here. And then you start to appreciate something I didn't appreciate when I first joined the club, just how special it is when everyone is together. Because I would have had a lot of experiences early on. I think I've spoken to you about this before, where I didn't feel like part of things at the start. The few factors on my case. Most of the team were much older than me. I had no confidence in myself, and it was difficult time for me. But fast forward a few years later to that year, everything was exactly the way you would want it to go. If you're a 10-year-old imagining what life would be like as a footballer, it was exactly like for about those 10 or 12 months. So it was brilliant.
You also had the joy, Richard, of playing alongside Steve Claridge, didn't you?
Yeah. Do you know what? That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Like, he's such a, like, he'd so much experience, obviously. He's a much higher profile player than any of us at that time. And he came to the club. I think he came to the club at the same transfer window, same time as Tony Cotty came. And it was myself and Neil Harris were there. And I think even Paul Moody was still there. So I remember thinking at the time, Jesus, these things are very competitive around here. Like, even by reputation only, I think, right, okay, Cotty is miles ahead of me, Claridge is miles ahead of me. But then things started to improve for me, and myself and Claridge had a run in the team because it coincided with Chopper's illness. Yes. So for the first time in a while, we kind of knew, okay, that we're going to be an established partnership here for a while. Whereas up until that, there was always kind of 3, maybe 4 strikers, mostly kind of competing with who's going to partner Chopper, for obvious reasons. He was the one who was getting all the goals. And then myself and Claridge faced this scenario with, okay, we're going to be playing together. Now, we didn't know work in the training ground together. We did not stay back to work on our partnership or to do any of that stuff. It just clicked. Like, he plays the game so differently to how I did. So there was we weren't running into the same areas, we weren't overlapping, we weren't getting in each other's way. We just complemented what each other did. And he was brilliant to play with. Like, he's as odd as 2 left feet. Like, he's really odd bloke. in a nice way. Like he'd all these weird little
he always, Richard,
superstitions.
Yeah, as watching him as a person, he always looked like he was just about to run out in a local park, not actually out in a professional sort of manner. He always looked like he'd just come off of Hackney Marshes or something. But he was a fantastic player. I mean, I love any people that played together for us when we beat Palace, and you two had a little bit of something to do with that at one game at Selhurst Park, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we had a couple of games against Palace there in that season when we first got up. Like the first one was, I think, only 4 or 5 games into the season, and we 1-0 win against Norwich at home, which was great. But I think we lost the next 2 or 3, I think, and then we Palace on the Saturday away. And I remember why there was extra bit of spice in the game, because the open day was the following day at Millwall, which meant we would be mingling with all the supporters in the pitch really at the top.
So not
that you need. Well, it was an additional incentive. Well, look, if we go out here and get our arses kicked, or if we don't play well, or blah blah blah, if this doesn't go well, we're going to be face to face with hundreds of people tomorrow who are going to be completely within their rights to tell us how they feel about how we're doing. So that was in the backdrop as well, but it was brilliant. What I remember about that, I mean, it was a really sunny day, but the noise of the Millwall fans, the numbers that travelled, it was amazing to watch. And we ended up winning, I think, 3-1.
Yeah, it was.
And then with the return fixture, we returned fixture then at the Christmas period on the day after Christmas, and we won that 3-0. And my family were all over. Mick McCarthy, the international manager, was there at the time. And I think on the back of that was one of the performances, I think, is why I got a call up for the next international. So, but those 2 games, like those 2, you hear about rivalries and you hear about derby games and all stuff like that. So we never really had it in the first few years. There's not much spice to a game against, Gillingham or, Brighton isn't a million miles away.
But you did at Palace.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, it was brilliant too.
Richie, can you give us your thoughts perhaps around the next match that we got ahead of us against QPR? Have you got any views about where that might go, what we got to do, and what might be in the thoughts of the players' heads after Saturday's result?
Did you know that's I think the interesting thing. It's what kind of an impact does a result like that have on the squad? Because in the last few games, like I know the Leeds defeat was the previous week, but the 2 games before that, was a 2-0 win away against Birmingham, a really, really good performance at home against Brighton, like a Premier League club in the FA Cup. Okay, so we all know how that went. And then the 2-0 win against West Brom. So 3 of the last 4 games have, there's huge reasons for a group of players to sit in the dressing room and say, we're on form here. We're playing in the right way. We're getting the right results. And I've heard a couple of comments from the players since the weekend where they said if we can repeat what we did on Saturday, there's no reason to think that a team like us should get relegated. But in the same breath, they know that Saturday's performance and win isn't enough to keep them up. It's just not. If they sit in the dressing room and say, look at us, we're so good that we can beat West Brom at home, keep a clean sheet, it's job done, well then, they're all going to look like mugs after the game. So it's an opportunity, right? First of all, to kind of suck QPR into the relegation battle, but it does look like when you look at the table, the bottom 2 are a good way off. So it looks there's a lot of teams there, 4 or 5 teams, which are hoping to avoid being 22nd. 3 points against QPR would be massive. I know it's the game in hand, so it'll be huge. So you'd be hopeful that the players are optimistic. You'd be hopeful that the crowd are going to be behind them, particularly in the back of the last 2 home games were so positive. So there's a lot of reasons there to
be hopeful.
To be hopeful, yeah.
Absolutely. We were talking with Paul Moody at the Norwich game at the Den recently, and he was very complimentary about you, but also saddened by your career-ending hip injury. But he'd love to do a show with us, with you, so it'd be you and him and us, and we can make that happen. And would you be happy to do that, Richie?
I'd absolutely love that. Honestly, love it. I've been caught up with moods in I don't know how long. It's been ages since I've seen him. So I'll probably be over in a couple of times over the next few months. So it'd be even better to do it in person if he's able to do that. But if not, you'll do it over the phone.
just let us know. George would be delighted to do a two-person show because I'll be over your side of the woods in the next couple of months.
Okay.
So that'll be great. And Paul Moody will be absolutely delighted too. Thanks, Richie. It's always great to hear from you. And we'll speak again soon. Take care, my friend.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Aisling here, and welcome to No One Likes Us Talking, podcast question number 12, sponsored by WePrintAnyGift.com. Before asking the question, we must congratulate Ben Webster from Dartford on winning our last competition with the answer David Ford and Jordan Archer. As a prize, Ben received a 25-year memento keyring. The question was very well responded to, so thanks for entering and better luck this time. We continue to celebrate the 25 years at the Den, Zampa Road, with the following question. In the last 25 years, how many seasons have we spent in the second tier, including this season? I'll repeat that. In the last 25 years, how many seasons have we spent in the second tier, including this season? Please send your answer to studio@noonelikesUsTalking.com. That is all in lowercase, and No One Likes Us Talking is all one word, and talking is without a G. Write podcast question in the subject of your email. The competition will close next Monday. The winner will be announced on our social media links and will be given a shout out on the next No One Likes Us Talking show. Finally, thanks again to our sponsor, WePrintAnyGift.com.
No One Likes Us Talking is also sponsored by Gary at Tower Design and Print Limited, Dean Wilson, Independent Funeral Directors at Elton, Bromley and Lock's Bottom, Reliance South East Cleaning Services covering London, Kent and Sussex, Bexley Steel, Power Industrial Estate, Slade Green Road, Erith, and North East Millwall. You can find our sponsors' details online or at our website at noonelikesUsTalking.com. That is a talking without a G. That's noonelikesUsTalking.com.
Well, that was great to hear from old Richard. Certainly he was a star in the making. And welcome back. We've now got our questions for the show where we contact our fans and ask them a question about what's going on at the moment. And the question that we gave them was whether we are in the Championship or not. Why and where would you reinforce a maximum of
He's got my team in, I think,
our
hasn't he?
squad in the closed season? I'll say that again, just because you probably wouldn't have heard it. Why and where would you reinforce a maximum of 3 positions in our squad in the closed season? The first one that comes up is from Tom Phipps, who we hear from quite frequently. Tom says the spine, centre-half, centre-mid and a decent forward. We have shipped too many late goals. The service to the front has been lacking since Saville left, and we need something that will make a real contribution to assist Tomo, as Sean Williams is not getting any younger and Greggs cannot do it all on his own. Just wish Morrison was 10 years younger. Well, he looked 20 years older than Teddy Sheringham the other week. Never mind. Aidan O'Brien is good when picked, but can be a little off pace. Cannot take a view on Bradshaw, and who knows if he will be making a full recovery. Experience tells me that a player is never quite as good as he was after an anterior cruciate ligament, ACL, to those that know it well. And Elliot, the least said the better. Fred seems to be the forgotten man, and I wonder if his days are numbered. What do you think about that,
Dun,
chaps?
dun, dun.
You could.
Well, the centre half thing could quite well take care of itself with Alex Pearce.
Yeah.
I would say. Again, looking at the different formations that we seem to be playing now. Well, we have 2 different formations. George's 4-4-2, and the new one that we've got that seems to fit better. I mean, we always go for the forward line because that's where you get the results from, and I can understand that. And whether Tom Elliott's the or Stevie Morrison now because of his age, whether he could fit into the position that Gregory plays, which is the main man down the middle. I'm not sure. I think you need somebody mobile. I think Bradshaw would fit that quite definitely, if I'm honest. And then obviously you've got the situation with the two players either side. Jed's there to stay, and Ben Marshall. I'd like to see us get Ben Marshall in. But there's in the midfield, Sean Williamson not getting any younger. I'm not sure whether he can or he can't play in the midfield three, if you know what I mean, because he's not really had a look in since they moved Ryan Leonard back there. But listen, there will be additions. There always is. I think we may well need to strengthen in the left-back position. James Meredith seems to have had an indifferent season, but thankfully he seems to be picking himself up again.
He might use Wallace in that position.
Well, you got Murray Wallace, who has been badly injured, and we do have Shane Ferguson still around, but I'm not sure. Maybe, I'm not sure that McLaughlin's going to stay around, and if he doesn't, then we're going to have a right-back situation to look at, if for nothing else but cover for Marlon. But then young James Brown's floating around, who's been out on loan and that. So
elsewhere.
And we have to watch that, we don't lose Gregory, of course.
Well, we may well lose Gregory if someone gives him a big payday that we can't afford to go with. There's only this morning the South London Press reported about fees for people, etc., and Steve Kavanagh, bless him, indicated that the club is looking at getting revenue in so that it can grow. If we can, we can. If we can't, we can't. But those points are quite valid. And Emma, who wrote in, our old favourite Emma, more like Stacey Dooley, as you remember, she says a lot of players are out of contracts anyhow. They might be out of contact with Emma, but anyhow, at the end of the season. And I hope players like Tunnicliffe and Martin are retained and Pearce signed. Strengthening, we need a good keeper either to develop alongside Martin next season or come on to replace him. Plus another couple of forwards, a big striker and someone to substitute for Bradshaw if Gregory goes, which plays on quite a bit of what you just said. You got anything to add to that?
I think you've got to be. I think to some extent it depends on where we end up come the end of the season, right? If we get relegated, then you can say, as far as I can say, we'll be saying goodbye to Gregory. You could probably be saying goodbye to Jed Wallace, I would think. So I think a lot will depend on where we end up. Because they're out of contract, and Gregory might decide, come the end of the season, he wants to go back north because he might be getting a load of earache from his wife. I don't know. But I'm just saying, if we get relegated...
Makes you say that. Do you know his wife?
Well, no, I don't know his wife. But what I'm saying is, you get a lot of players, when they do a lot of these moves, a lot of it's to do with what the wife has to say. They want to I want to go back up north.
Well, it's to do with the kids and that as
yeah,
well,
that's right. So but what I'm saying is, I think if we go down, then I think there's going to be, in my opinion, I think you'll find a number of departures because I don't think they're going to want to play in Division 1.
Well, they are already looking, Eamonn, by the way. I mean, they had a couple of trialists playing an under-23 game the other night. One from Southampton, I believe it was, and one
Afalobi from Southampton.
We've signed a young boy, haven't we?
We've signed a young boy, Harry Ranson from... was it Sittingbourne? I think Eastbourne. Sorry.
I think we definitely need. If we stay in the division, I think we definitely need another forward. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. The right back, I could never work out why it was that Marlon seemed to be under threat in the first place. I never did understand that. Right, I mean, I don't know.
I always thought McLaughlin was a very solid
back. I'm not saying he wasn't, but I just
in many
thought Romeo was better.
He's a better positioner than Marlon.
His defensive side of his game. I bet. Listen, there's a lot of natural sort of progression in sides in the sense that, like I say, someone like McLaughlin who might be frustrated at not having played this year might say, I need to go or whatever. That will naturally take its course. The goalkeeping situation is interesting because Dave Martin's no spring chicken by any stretch of the imagination. I've always quite liked Ben Amos, if I'm honest, in front of Jordan Archer. Jordan Archer, I don't know where he is. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not so good. I don't know. I mean, he's a Scottish international goalkeeper, whether that makes any difference to someone who might want him, if you know what I mean. But I think it is definitely a position that needs to be looked at. And I say, Dave Martin's been, in my opinion, fantastic since he's come in. Forget about the Brighton incident. That was so out of character of what's happened since he's come in the side. That he's definitely one that I would keep if it is only to be backup, because you've got a good solid backup.
I mean, one of the things I noticed on Saturday was, especially with Cooper, he didn't tend to lump the ball out. When that was to do with Pearce. I mean, whether you want another defender, I don't know. I mean, I think our possession of football can be a lot better, and it was a lot better on Saturday. But we just got to know how to kill a game off.
Yeah. I'm going to put this one to George, because I think he's a specialist on this one. Darren from the Den, he's still there. He hasn't got away from there at all. A strong character like Morrison in the playing staff will be a big bonus, as I have said before. But a replacement for Steve is essential. Leaders on the pitch are needed. Pearce or someone of a similar character is certainly needed in central defence, and some more strength in depth for our midfield too.
Right. Well, there's many points here that I agree with Darren, to be honest. I think, if I'm honest, I don't think Steve should have a contract as a player anymore. I really don't, as much as I love the boy. I think coaching and helping the team in that way, because Darren's talking about strong characters. Well, I don't think they come any stronger than Steve Morrison when it comes to characters at Millwall. As for Pearce, we've spoken about that. I think we would all be in agreement. I think we're forgetting a little bit about Wallace. He is a centre-half, in all honesty, although I don't think he would have lost his left-back position should he, if he hadn't have got injured. So a lot of what Darren says, I totally agree with, actually.
That's good.
I think the point Darren's making there that is essential. The likes of Steve Morrison, or the characters that have been there in the side in recent years have been Steve Morrison, Sean Williams, Tony Craig in the recent past. They were the leaders as Neil. And Neil tends to like one or two of them in there that he will go to as like the senior players, as he says. I think there's room definitely to bring another one in somewhere along the line. That might be Alex Pearce coming in, but I would take him anyway. But even if Alex Pearce come in, I'd still say if Steve Morrison's not getting the game time that and obviously Sean Williams hasn't recently, there needs to be another person that can walk into that side and have some sort of effect on them. I would like to see, and not that it would happen, I don't think, but someone like Kevin McDonald, who played for Fulham last year when they had the good run in the Championship, who's a quality midfield player, someone like that who can, boss things around again.
I've always thought that our midfield lacked, and I've said it quite a few times, I think we lack a Les Briley, a man who gets the ball in the middle of the field and attacks the opposition. Most of our midfield get the ball, especially Williams, he tends to stop, pass the ball. You're not gaining any groundage. If you have a midfielder, and I see it on other sides a lot of the time, they get their midfielders get the ball, they run at us, and they push the entire team back. Now, if you do that, if we get a midfielder like that, I think it would make a vast difference to our midfield.
Yeah. Well, there's some good points covered there, and I mean we had quite a few write-ups coming in, but I think I'll summarise really using Terry Wise's words, because I think he just says everything that we've covered. Terry says, a centre-back that can be calm and read the game, another midfielder who can pinpoint balls forward, and lastly, someone to do a job as good as Morrison in his prime. And I think you'd all agree that's about and around about.
Well, I don't think I'd say to that. I think Steve Morrison's done an excellent job, even not in his prime, to be quite honest.
You might hear me say that I don't think we should have Morrison as a player, but I think you will never come across a type of Morrison. I don't think we could afford him. Morrison is only at Millwall because he wanted to be. We couldn't have gone out and snatched him from anywhere. He's here today because Steve Morrison wanted to play for Millwall, and that's the vast difference. You would have to pay a lot of money to get a boy as good as Morrison again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I was so thankful when he didn't turn it on for Leeds and opted to come to us whilst they were paying for him at the Den.
Well, that's right.
Hey,
Although it could have been so different for Steve Morrison when he was at Leeds on what he's told us, but the manager, he told him he weren't wanted after he signed a 3-year contract.
wonderful, absolutely right. You can't beat
Good old
good
Leeds.
leadership in football clubs, can you? Okay, so we're going to take a quick break there, and we'll be back with you shortly. You can listen to No One Likes Us Talking every Friday evening in association with Love Sport Radio and host Johnny Burrow. There is fan interaction by phone, messaging, tweeting or email. Yeah, listen to No One Likes Us Talking every Friday evening, 9 till 10. Well, we're delighted to welcome Dean Brown, the father of Southwark's one and only Young Citizen of the Year, Harvey Brown. What a wonderful tribute to you all that is. How did that come about? How did you find out that well, when did the letter arrive?
Well, basically, my brother drinks with the Aidan Andrews in the pub, and he sort of asked me, brother, do you think me and Vicky would mind if he nominated Harvey? And like we said, no, we'd be delighted. We couldn't believe that, that he wanted to anyway. And then Southwark News sort of got in touch with us and said that the mayor's office wants to contact us, so they passed their details on. I gave him a call, and she said that he's been nominated and he's won. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
couldn't believe it.
You must be very proud, Dean.
So
I
proud.
I know you'd be proud. It doesn't matter if
exactly.
you wins or not, but
No,
you must be chuffed, the pair of you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he makes us prouder every day for what he goes through and his outlook on life, and but to get this award is just, it's up there with, well, I can't describe it honestly. It's just so proud.
Well, we're all proud of him, Dean. So I can imagine that you being dad, it must be wonderful. But I should imagine the little fella's quite proud himself, isn't he?
He is. But Harvey, everything with him is just like water off a duck's back. He's just so calm. We told him he sort of punched the air, but he just takes things in his stride. I don't think it's really. They're probably thinking more on a day with Harvey.
And when's the big day then?
It's May the 18th.
Well, that'll be lovely. We'll be looking out for the old pictures in the press, no doubt.
Yeah,
it's in the cathedral, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's in the cathedral. Yeah. We've been invited. There's a ceremony going on at first before the awards, and then the awards take place in the afternoon. So we've been invited for breakfast with like the mayor and everyone at Southwark Cathedral, and then they do the awards in the afternoon.
Well, I think it's safe to say, Dean, if you're having breakfast with the mayor, you won't be having any porridge out of the microwave.
I was going to sneak the bag in.
I'll tell you what, Dean, the way you was describing Harvey there, my mind was going to further down the line. He might well be the next Millwall manager. We could do with someone with his attributes without a doubt. Sorry, Neil, I don't mean Neil's doing anything wrong, by the way, but Harvey seems ideal to me.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, he keeps saying he wants to be a goalkeeper. But, there have to be little goals because he ain't going to grow much more, bless him.
I saw them at the ground the other day, actually. They had them in the away stand, the Harvey-sized goals. Obviously just built for all those little ones that we do little bits with all around the ground.
I'll tell you what, Dean, that says another thing about him as well. The fact that he wants to be a goalkeeper. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're all a little bit loopy, aren't they?
Exactly.
Bless him. He's a character without any shadow of a doubt, mate.
We do the show Friday nights at Love Sport, and Johnny, who presents it, said to me, and what did he win the award? How did that come about? I said, to be honest, John, I ain't got a blooming clue, but we just love him a bit, so we don't care really, as long as he won. So
Oh, that's brilliant.
Well, he puts himself out. Oh, so you got a promotion on Good Friday then, before the Brentford game with old Steve Rendell. There's a shirt up for. It's a raffle, isn't it? I think
it's a raffle. Yeah. We've been doing it online on Harvey's page and other pages as well, Millwall pages, and Bermondsey and Motherwell pages. But people have been doing it on PayPal, like been paying, and so we've been sort of taking photos of the strips, obviously, putting them in envelopes, and then on the day that Millwall's said that we can have a table in the car park by the Blue Bus, we're just going to have the shirt there framed, and if people want to come along and buy some tickets and hopefully raise a bit more money. And Steve's kindly donating it now because he done the half marathon for the MPS Society. Kevin Downey is now doing the full one. So,
That's right.
Yeah, he's going to donate all the money that we get with the raffle. He's going to donate that to Kevin's charity to get him up and running, and because it's all for the same cause anyway. So it's just a lovely gesture from Steve to do that as well.
Yeah, we're sorry about Ted's phone going off as usual. He manages to.
It always goes off once it's shown.
It's all right. It's all right, Dean. The mayor has just said that they got the porridge for you if you need
Porridge,
it.
He obviously texted him. Fantastic stuff. Dean, all the best for you and your family. Have a great day out there in May. And we're trying to get old Steve to do a couple of minutes on the show, hopefully this Friday, where he can talk about the auction for the following week. So all the best with that. And
thank you very much.
And we'll be round for raffle tickets at Brentford.
Lovely, brilliant.
Yeah, it is Brentford. Well done.
Yeah.
We won't have to go far. I'll sit on the bus. I only got to walk out.
You be careful we don't pull the handbrake off that bus.
Thanks, Dean. Bye for now.
Thanks very much. Thanks a lot.
All right, bye.
Well, that was great to hear from Dean. And what a star young Harvey is. Anyhow, it's now time, after all that joy, for my friends around me, Stan, Ted and George, to be at their most grumpiest and be grumpiness epitomised in our Grumpy Old Gits section. So, Stan, I know there's a few issues boiling in your backyard.
Well, this is very, very true.
And it's not eels.
Very, very true.
No.
Well, the first one I think it's worth mentioning, because we mentioned it before. I mentioned it before. Was that this question of the fan on the board election? Now, we raised that about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I've not seen anything anywhere to suggest what's happening. Now, as I said before, right, when the fan on the board, the current fan on the board was in, he decided that he wanted a 2-year period of office. Instead of doing it for a calendar year from January to December, he wanted to do it on a football season basis. Now, personally, I never understood that, but if that's what he wanted to do, that's what he wanted to do. And there was a maximum period. Now, at this moment in time, his term of office is due to run out. Now, the question is, are we going to have a fan on the board? Is there going to be an election? If there's not going to be an election, then I think it's certainly the case that people, whether it be the football club, whether it be the Millwall Supporters Club, should explain to the Millwall fans what the up-to-date position is. And if there's not going to be an election, then we want to know why there's not going to be an election.
Well, I think we'll have to do some probing there, because there's nothing really on any of the boards or coming through from any parties on it.
If I remember rightly, said it was going to be a 2-year, 2-season stint, wasn't it? Term.
Well, Stan's right in saying that Mickey was very keen on going to 2 years.
That's right, it was his own idea.
Which was his idea, and it was fine. It went through, it got passed through. And I believe, as Stan quite rightly says, his 2 years is coming up. I don't know where it should come from now. I mean, obviously, you've got to take into account all parties that are concerned. Obviously, there's three to a certain extent. There's Mickey himself as a fan on the board. There's the Supporters Club, who always used to run the elections for it and whatever. And there's also the football club and their position about it. What are they? Are they still happy to have a fan on the board? I don't know.
The fan on the board always used to come under our umbrella, didn't it, as the MSC?
Yeah, as we always understood, it was with with the football club's agreement. That's what they wanted, and it came on. It may well have shifted a little bit from them days as when Pete Garston first took the position. and even since Peter left and Vicky's taken over, perhaps things have changed. But nobody seems to be telling anybody anything, and it's time is running out, which is what I think Stan's point is all about.
That's right. I mean, and also, I mean, I noticed in the programme the other day, because I was looking on the MSC page, and because it made reference on there to the AGM. Now, my understanding is, and I don't know, but my understanding of it is that when the MSC was wound up, the Constitution was all going to be rewritten and whatever. Now, I've not seen no written Constitution, and I find it amazing that it's taken this long for it to happen. I also equally find it amazing that nobody, I mean, normally the message boards and one particular message board have always got plenty to say on the issue, and they've all gone quiet. I find that bizarre, to be blunt. But, where is the Constitution? And also, the other thing I'd ask the question, right, is that when it was, because now, unlike before, you have to be a member, you have to pay money up front to be a member of the MSC, didn't you?
You do.
So when they have their AGM, perhaps somebody can clarify, does that mean we can all rock up, or is it only members of the MSC that can do it?
Well, a situation I understand is you pay to become a full member. As a season ticket holder, you're automatically an associated member. Now, if you're an associated member, does that mean you can go to the AGM but not have a vote? Because that may well be the situation. I would find it a bit bizarre if, as an associate member, you're not allowed to turn up at the AGM. But I can understand if they've got the new process that they do have, which I believe it's at £5 to join the MSC or something like that, where just full members have the rights to vote, if that's what the Constitution says or what goes on. But I don't know whether you are welcome or whether a fan who's got no connection at all, who's a member, like a member, I understand. I don't know whether they become associate members. I think they may do. I'm not sure. But are they allowed to come along? Or someone who's just a Millwall fan who turns up week in, week out, who's not a member or season ticket holder, or can he go? I don't know, because I've not seen anything that advertising it or how it goes.
There's certainly more questions than answers, chaps. And trying to resolve that is going to take a little bit more digging, without a doubt. So perhaps we can come back in the shorter term, maybe, with a message that we can put out on the weekly show with Love Sport, or maybe on our end of season show in May. But either way, it's a bit odd that there is a situation where we're all walking round the den in the dark, and that's a strange thing to consider. George, how about you? Have you got anything that's making you grumpy?
I've just going to mention about the voting forms. The MSC have got their voting forms out for the Player of the Season. I think Stan knows about this. They were going to do it like they did it last year, weren't they, Stan? I believe. Yeah,
I mean, well, that's right. I mean, last year, how I come to find out about it was last year. I was going to vote when I was down at the ground, and I thought, I'll do it on the computer. And because when I get on my computer and open up the link, I expect to find it as it was always when we used to do it.
Yep.
Right. I then found out that the player I wanted wasn't on that list, right? And I then asked, well, who's appointed these people? Where have they come from, right? I was then told that that's the new way it was going to be done, and how it was done now is that the people who are voted man of the match, to get on there, you've got to be a man of the match. Now, whether there's a qualifying, I can't remember now. So therefore, and I found it bizarre because Hutchinson won the thing eventually. I've got no problem with that, although he ain't the bloke I would have voted for. But Cooper, who was as much part of that partnership, he wasn't on there. So when he wanted to vote for Jake Cooper, he couldn't vote for him. Now that is, in my opinion, a travesty of democracy, because the supporters player of the year, and the clue is in the name, it's the supporters that decide who it was. What concerns me now with this thing, I'm beginning to wonder whether we're not sliding down this slippery slope to sponsorship by companies, and they're going to start picking the player, it's going to be their player of the season, and the supporter that turns up week in and week out, right, there's no say.
Well, what I can tell you is that they've got a new voting form out, and I think that's how it was meant to be this season, if I'm honest. That was my information. But now they have got a voting form out. I saw it on Saturday. It's got quite a large list of players on there, but there is no Ben Thompson. And I am told that this is by the football club have given the MSC the list, and this is who you vote for. Or you don't vote at all.
What's it got to do with a football club? I mean, at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with them. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not interested in what the football club reckons, whether the CEO thinks so-and-so should be in here, whether he should do. So, no, he's got absolutely nothing to do with it. It's the people that are the supporters. They're the player. They are the people who decide who's going to be their player of the year. Not some executive.
Absolutely.
Like, not interested in what he's got
we
to
don't
say.
know who's give this to the MSC, do we? We can't pick anybody out, but I'm with you, Stan. I think it's the player of the season vote, and so supporters should be able to vote for all of the players, not the ones that are chosen as a list, and this is what you're given. I think we should have a right to vote for all of our players. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, to me, it's just a simple process. You are, as a supporter, you go week in, week out. You choose the guy that you've seen, you believe, playing the best in a Millwall shirt all season. Now, coming to the Ben Thompson thing, I don't care if that guy's only played one game. If, in your opinion, in that one game he was better than all the others, then you've got the right to vote for him. Anybody that's put a Millwall shirt on this year should be there to be selected as your player of the year if you want. Listen, I would find it difficult, although Ben's playing brilliantly at the moment, but to vote for him for player of the year because you look at it over a longer part of the season, the whole lot. But if some people feel that Ben Thompson in his second half of the season has wanted or done enough to deserve their vote for player of the year, so be it. What is wrong with that? I don't see why anybody should be left off the list. There should always be. They can put a list of people up, but there should always be an option to do another player. You know what I mean? You can list Lee Gregory, Stevie Marshall, all blah blah blah.
In fairness to the list, I didn't look at it to see if that option was there, so I can't.
Well, if that's there, then fair enough. Then because people will have the choice that they want to make. The choice should be there.
I can't tell you whether it was or it wasn't, so I can't.
I mean, information on Twitter suggests that there is no option. It's a list. The other bit that I would be interested in, just as it is a point of interest, were people like Bradshaw and Murray Wallace on the list?
I'm sorry to tell you that I didn't look at the list that much. I just knew, I can only give you the information I had. But there was a there must have been 15, 20 names on there. There was certainly from last season where I think we had, if I'm looking at Stanley, I think we had about 6 names, didn't we, Stan?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was a vast majority of the players, but what ones are left off and what ones weren't. The only reason I mentioned Thompson, because the guys on the bus were all quite keen to vote for Thompson, and he wasn't there. So.
Yeah. Well, I understand. Whatever list you put, it can't be a fully comprehensive list. Let's put it that way. We can all hazard a guess who's going to be the player of the year and whatever.
Yeah,
but
you wouldn't have Bradshaw, I don't suppose.
No, but let's put it this way: we've had 3 goalkeepers this year, all at different times that have played certain times. So you shouldn't just have one goalkeeper there, or you should certainly leave the option for someone to vote for the other goalkeeper if they want. Yeah. It's quite simple to me. There should just be an availability box for anybody that you choose to pick.
See, what concerns me now, I mean, this is another example, in my view, where this club is suddenly beginning to be changed, and in some ways it's being sanitised, and and I've got no doubt at the end of the day this is being led by the CEO.
Well, there you go. No doubt at the end of the day it's been led by the CEO. So, Steve, let us know what you think here on the Millwall podcast for No One Likes Us Talking. Ted, you must have some grumpy bits.
Well, yeah, I mean, as usual, I walk into this show and I'm never grumpy, really, but then you ask me to think of something and it comes up. But something that has caught my eye this week, again, funny enough, revolves around the end-of-season dinner. because it's now.
He always likes an end of season
Well,
dinner.
he always
Don't
goes,
forget,
yeah.
don't forget.
I was fortunate enough to be there when the concept of this was brought to the football club, which came from the supporters club at the time, and the suggestion was to have a dinner where the supporters could mingle around with the players and everybody would be there. You know. Now, it's developed over a length of time into something that it should be at the end of the season. I'm not against that, but the price of this year's one, and I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, is £99. Now, that starts to me to say that it's becoming a bit elitist. It's becoming a bit directed at people that can afford it. And it was never, ever the intention of that being that way. You know, I mean, people, we're all Millwall fans, and people go into the executive lounge and sit in there because they can afford to be in there or buy their ticket to be in there. People go and sit up at the CBL because that's all that they can afford, you know. This dinner dance now that started out to be something that we wanted to be available to everyone seems to me to now be moving into a direction about only people that can afford it. That, to me, is wrong.
Well, I mean, I it's the first I've heard of it, Ted, but think it. I mean, it just blows you away, doesn't it? I mean, but it's all about money now. I mean, a simple example I twigged the beginning of this not so long ago. We used to do the beanbags, didn't we? Well, the beanbags were done. When you done the beanbag, you paid a £10. It cost you £10. You got your chili con carne or your sausage and mash, whatever it was, and you parked your jam jar in the car park, and everybody had a lovely day. Now you pay £12. You don't get no grub, and they're now charging you to park your car, right? And this thing is the sign of things to come, right? And you know this club is, and because. You know, if that's what's happening here, I mean, what are the MSC saying about all this? What are they saying?
What are they saying?
Dear, oh dear.
I think there's certainly a list of issues that you could take to the MSC, and perhaps that would be a good thing.
I have to say, Eamonn, that the points the guys are all making here, and you know, nobody would ever see this, and I think I'm right, the guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these points we've brought up here, we would be confronting the football club with these points, wouldn't we?
Well, we've certainly been having discussions about it.
Yeah.
Like
I'm not saying we would win all the time. We never used to win all the time with Andy Ambler, but we would certainly bring the points to him, Eamonn, and, you know, whether we won or changed his mind or not, and we didn't all the time.
Look, George,
but we would certainly bring it up.
I'm the first to accept that in this day and age, football clubs will make money where they can in a commercial aspect. That's what they're there for. There's certain things that I fully understand. But there should be a point when they should not forget a certain section of fans, if you know what I mean. That end of season dinner, when we first talked about it, first started it up and first got it going, it was designed for anybody to go, you know. And I believe.
I remember I was there with you, Ted.
Well, I can't remember the price of it.
I always hoping we were going to get a table for free. Us MSC guys, but we didn't do.
Well, we paid all the way through.
Dear.
We paid all the way through.
Yeah.
Every end of season dinner that I've been to, I've paid all the way through. But it's gone up and up and up every year.
And I think it was a tenner then, wasn't it?
First time I went into
I've just taken a look at the ad for that, and I'll tell you what that replicates. What that replicates is an evening's event when there's a match day, same price, same conditions, exactly the same, £99 plus VAT.
Well, yeah, but look, this is this should be a real special occasion. I mean, it was always sort of set about by the Player of the Year. It was called the Player of the Year. Now it's an end of season do. Well, it was the MSC Millwall Supporters Club Player of the Year do to start with. Now we've gone to an end of season do. You know, and the football club have basically taken the idea and run it their own way.
Yeah,
and. Even when we was on the committee and that was talked about and that, or we had the argument with somebody who's left the club now, but where the idea actually came from, and had to put him straight that it came from the MSC, it was their idea to do it, and that slowly but surely the football clubs picked it up and run with it. Yeah. Fine, but don't do it at the expense of people that it was designed for.
Something else that we need to take forward, Ted, there's no doubt about it. There's just one one area that I'm not really. It's more about being in the dark at the den once again. The lack of information surrounding the regeneration of the area continues to be deafening, and I think you've got something on that.
They're looking to go forward. They need the council and renewal to release the condition of, the CPO. They're not doing that at the moment, so that's making it difficult for the football club to find a partner. If they could do that, it would assist the club. Yeah, Millwall are in a position of old at the moment by the council and renewal. If they was to withdraw that, then I think we could all be going forward. And when I say we, I mean the football club.
Exactly, yeah. Player of the Year vote. There is a list of players, and they have been provided by Millwall Football Club, and there is nowhere else for you to vote for anybody else. And I think you'll find...
Gosh, there's some missing players there.
There's a few players missing, yeah.
Like a certain Mr. Martin, no Mr. Thompson, but the likes of Murray Willis.
I think that point you made there, Ted, was very valid. We always had we had just about every player there, but still had, if you think of someone else, put it there, and and I think that's a very.
I don't think nobody should be telling you who to vote for.
No, and on that point, QPR then. Come on, Stan, what you got to say?
I was listening to somebody the other day, and they seemed to think that when they got rid of McLaren, right, and they bring in a new manager, that normally that it has this sort of new manager bounce, didn't it? Well, they didn't. What they've done, as I understand it, and I've got nothing against this guy, I don't know nothing about him, but they've promoted this coach for the time being to see the season out, and this sort of bounce never took place. Now, okay, I think Ted said earlier they're going to come probably tomorrow. They'll probably sit there and park the bus. Well, that's fine because, they don't come to entertain us, and it's for us to break them down. Right. But I think if we play the same team that we did Saturday, we'll run out winners. But it's a game that we need to win. And I think we're capable of winning it.
My point about them, I'm not necessarily sure that they will park the bus, but what I'm saying, looking at their position and that, I'm sure they would take a draw now to get themselves out of it.
This has become a much more important game for them than it was a few weeks back.
It's become a huge game for us, George. We're all looking at it saying we could be just 1 point behind. We've got to win the game first, but we could be 1 point behind QPR with a game in hand.
We would go above Wigan, I think.
But it puts everything, although it is already in our hands, but it brings somebody else into it that we never thought about. We was always looking at Reading, Rotherham and Wigan, and now you've got QPR, possibly Birmingham if we could get even closer to them. But the point what I was trying to make about the game tomorrow is the style that we play. We tend to not mind the opposition having the ball. Then when we nick it off of them, off we go. I'm not so sure that QPR are going to be playing that style of football. That's why I'm saying to myself that it may well be a game where we have to revert back to a 4-4-2 to get a breakthrough, because they could play in a different style and say West Brom. Someone like West Brom and Leeds are going to come and play their football against us because they think they'll be better than us. They think they're going to play against us. I've just got this feeling that QPR and QPR's management now might be looking at it and saying, right, we're in trouble here. I nearly said it. I could swear anyway. Go on to the podcast. But it looks like, we could be in trouble here. So let's make sure we don't lose first. And if they do that, it might stifle us a little bit in the way that we play at the moment. And we may just have to go into the realms of playing the way that they are to get our victory tomorrow, which might mean a change of plan and your Tom Elliott or Stevie Morrison getting involved.
As long as we win the game, I don't care how.
That's all that matters, doesn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
A scruffy 1-0 will be delightful tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
I couldn't knock that on the head. So that's the first of our last 7. Our partnership with Love Sport Radio, bringing weekly shows on Friday 9 to 10. You can email, tweet and call in on air, and your thoughts and topics being covered, and hear them from the guys and girls of the No One Likes Us Talking team. You've got one to raise as well, but I'll ask for Ted first.
I was just say, is that with the lovely Johnny Burrows, is it?
It could be with the lovely Johnny Burrows. He might even wear his pink sash, I've heard this Friday. If you don't know about that, it's a story I've got to tell you. You had a point.
Well, the less I know about that, the better.
No. We accept diversity.
Well, yeah, okay. I hear what you say, as they say.
Thank you.
Right, just one thing I've got to mention, and it's the question of the season tickets for next season. Because as you know, normally when we had done, when you had the season tickets that come out on a certain date, and then if you're going to get it on the finance, it was normally done by Zebra Finance, and all of a sudden that started off, and then it come out that they were no longer doing it, and they've now found another partner, which was on the computer yesterday. Now, it's slightly changed, right? And people need to be aware of this, because I used to get mine on the finance, and what would happen? I'd fill in the form with the club, go and get the finance form off the club, then fill it all in, give it back to Miranda, and off that went. And
Miranda,
and now they're going to make you pay, Stan, aren't they?
No. What it is now, it has to be done online.
Right.
So therefore, what happens is now that you will have to register on the Millwall ticket office.
Yeah.
It's on the computer, because there's a circular come out. So you can only do it that way. You can't do the finance if you're going to use this mob any other way other than do it online.
Okay.
So you need to do it now. Because when I then suddenly see people changing, and I think to myself, well, hang on, we're in a bit of a rip-off time here, potentially. Right? And I just give you...
This is how he thinks. He is a union man.
Well, that's very true, yeah. But, for example, when I I'll just give you what I found out. Now, I then qualify for the over 60.
Over 50s.
Or over 50s, yeah. Well, I got it when I was 60.
Oh,
anyway.
That's right, okay.
But anyway, my ticket, this is based, I do it on 4 months, right? So, as it started, if it's ever would have been there now, the ticket would have cost me £219. This is in the Super Saver period, okay? You would then have a £16 administration fee. The first payment would then be, on the first instalment, would then be £70.75. And then you get 3 instalments afterwards, which is £54.75. And the total of that would have been £235. Now, you do exactly the same, but their administration fee for this new mob is £25. And the total cost will be £242.
Okay, so there you know now.
That's in the Cold Blow Lane end, upper block where I sit.
There you go. If you want to sit next to Stan, it's going to cost you $242 this time round, and that's going to be a bit more expensive.
He has a big gap round him. Nobody sits near him.
You can see him all on his own up in the corner.
We mustn't forget old Aidan O'Brien on our podcast. He was the scorer of Ireland's best goal of the year.
Well, he scored one,
Aidan.
didn't he?
Well, he did, but it looked good against the Poles. So good for.
Let's not forget the
well done, Aidan.
Lion Roars, eh?
Yeah, and don't forget we are going to be back in mid-May. And don't forget, you must catch us live on Love Sport with the lovely Johnny Burrow each Friday between 9 and 10. Well, he may do. And so watch out on our social media sites for details. Come on, you Lions!
Come on.